In April and May of this year, I tracked every single minute of my work time, and in this video I want to give a complete breakdown of what happened. But this one thing has a caveat, because it was not just my CEO time, it was also the time where I jumped in as a software developer into a struggling project for a client. We are basically talking about a time frame of 40 days, which I completely tracked. Inside these 40 days, I had 37 work days, 39 days in the time frame, and 37 work days as I logged time on those days. That comes up to around 10 hours per day and 6 days per week. So the 2 off days that I had basically correlate to these 0.4 days per week accumulated. And this is basically what my life looks like right now, mostly CEO tasks. And as a CEO, you should not do development tasks. So this is why I'm stating here, I'm not proud of that, because what is something that the CEO actually needs to do? The list is quite simple. The CEO only needs to provide resources. Then they need to make a vision and repeat that vision. And the third thing is sales. And sales can be investors, can be biggest customers, and should also be HR. So selling the team that they should work at that company. And in this post today, we want to explore the things that I learned. That will include what difference it made in the project, how it affected my content. So as you're seeing here, I'm a YouTuber. I became a YouTuber around a year ago. And also I want to talk about how much fun it was and the things I learned. And if you're wondering, why should you care? Why should you continue watching this video? Well, I can tell you, most of the people working too little. I mean, I'm not judging. Everybody can do what they want, but people really want to reach their goals. Usually a lot of work is involved. And my bar for sure was too low. And I noticed that while I was time tracking. And then also in the end of this video, I'm going to give you this tracking sheet, which you can download from my website and apply for yourself. The first lesson I learned here was that you really need to track every single minute. That doesn't mean you need to write down every single minute what you did, but within an hour, there should be only certain things you do, and this hour should be tracked completely correctly. So should not say like 1 hour I did this, next hour I did this, but it should be from 11:15 to 12 o'clock I did that. Only then you can actually make the calculations. And yes, for the company, we do have a time tracking software, which we use Trakabi, and it's quite good, but it doesn't have all these evaluation metrics. And for me, it would be too cumbersome to use. So I made my own time tracking sheet, which I'm going to go over right now. And I just want to point out real quick, time tracking every hour is important. And I did this in Excel so I could do the calculations. I'm going to talk about this real quick, how this sheet works. So basically, I would just pick a time here. So this is the day, and I pick from and to. So this is the work time, and I just subtract that with the breaks, and then the results is an hour ratio as a floating number. So 2.0 is 2 hours, 1.1 is should be 1 hour and 6 minutes. Okay, it correlates with this. Yeah, 1 hour 6 minutes. Perfect. And then so I would write what I did or the results that I achieved, and maybe even put in a URL here. Later on, I noticed that the URLs are just futile. I didn't do them much more. So I left them out at one point. And I also picked a type. So the type is important, because the whole idea starting this was I wanted to track what I spent time on. And I started this sheet even earlier, and I wanted to know, can I increase the time on content? So basically what I wanted to do is do content for most of the time, and then a bit of product development for our own products. And then this is TSL, training, leadership, sales, or training, sales, leadership. Filler was the stuff where I would jump into someone else's work in order to fix something. And random was something I didn't know. So the idea was to bring those two numbers up, but in the end it looked like I actually brought the client's number up, and I also have a breakdown here later on. Cool. So this is the spreadsheet, and the first learning again is you need to have this really clear tracking of almost minute-based tracking, because only then you can make the evaluations. And to my experience, it was good to do this for a month, but I stopped after these 39 days. So you see the spreadsheet here finishes at one point, because after that I went traveling. Yeah. After that I went traveling. I just didn't want to be bothered and tracking my time while I was traveling. But traveling, I would still probably code 40 hours per week, guessing here. Okay, the next thing that I learned was that the bar of hard work is probably too low. So I actually thought I would work a lot, but in the end I did not. And for this, I have this nice quote from Interstellar, from the movie, "Do not go gentle into that good night, rage, rage against the dying of the light." That was their mantra when they flew the spaceships. And I think this makes sense, because if you really want to achieve something, it's about violence. I mean, this is what Hormozy says, violence is like crank at it. It's true. In the software project, I had the same experience. Only with like huge effort, I was able to do quite a lot on the project and to refactor a lot, only with a lot of focused effort. And this reflects with a weekly time. So I made us an overview here, which is weekly. And this might be a good opportunity for you to grab this sheet, because it took me probably a day or a couple of days to improve this over the time. What's important here is that I actually make these focus bugs. So these are the focus bugs I wanted to improve, and these are the ones I wanted to do less. And you see here the hours spent basically just less than 40. So in March and early April, I worked less than a normal full-time employee. And it got me wondering, like, am I actually doing my job as a CEO? Like, am I actually doing enough? And then once I jumped into the project, then it actually increased quite a bit. From the hourly logging, we then get to the weekly login, and I noticed I actually have much more capacity to work. So basically here, once I jumped into the project around here, the first week where I didn't really grasp what was going on, and then the numbers went up. And that was also around the time where I went much less to social gatherings. In the evenings, I would probably code every evening and get to bed later, after my partner even. And so yeah, so this was definitely an interesting time, and I noticed that there was actually much more capacity I could have done even earlier. The third lesson is I expanded my horizon, and this is interesting, and this is something that I think everybody should ask themselves if they have some time where they focus a lot. Usually in life there's something you really want to do, and I think this is true for everybody. Even if you're working in the perfect product, even if you have your own company, you're totally your own lord, basically. There is always something where you think you can improve. You would rather do this other thing. I actually have very rarely met someone who's completely in the middle. So, but this brought me to this insight that if I would think about working so hard at something that I actually wanted to do, in this case, content, what could I achieve? So if I would work 70 hours per week only on content, what would happen? And basically this is where I am now. Yes, I'm not working every evening, and I'm probably not working 70 hours per week, but I'm working probably 60 hours per week. And now the YouTube channel is actually growing. Who would have guessed? So to summarize this, 70 hours per week as a developer. And I think this was exactly my experience. This is what made this so powerful. I would be able to ship one major feature per week. And this was partially completely refactoring what someone else did before, which I didn't deem as high enough quality. I would completely turn this feature around and rewrite it new, or completely improve it, including testing and shipping. And so this was something I could do as a developer. But now as a content creator, well, I actually don't know. I'm experiencing that right now. The results are coming, and I have a screenshot later on from my YouTube channel. I just wanted to point out that there is something that I could probably do even more that I didn't even know before. Lesson number 4, it helped me simplify. So the other thing that happened was that around 2 weeks into this development, I noticed I won't get out of this too fast. Like this is gonna suck me in for probably another month. That turned out to be true, but it actually went on much longer. So even through my travels in Europe, and you see there are a couple of videos about the conferences I attended, I was coding probably every day a couple of hours. So I noticed this would not leave me alone, this project. And the problem with the content is I actually have a content team. So there are right now 3 full-time people working on content next to me. And these are all people on my payroll. And there's basically my bet for the future that I'm putting in right now. So if I don't produce the content, nobody will. Because this is a personal brand. This is not some faceless channel where people know what they're going to do and they can just crank out videos by themselves. Those people depend on me. So if I don't ship them content, I would basically pay them for nothing. At least I don't know what they would do. I had no idea. Probably just let them idle. Second thing, I'll probably lose them. Usually it's that thing with any kind of employees. If you don't give them work, they become dull. They're not sharp anymore. They don't work so focused because they have nothing to work on. So they lose the part of the capacity to work, and then also they might just take on another job. So I couldn't let that happen. So basically what I did, I actually produced 2 hours per day in content. And I was able to manage to crank out 1 video per day and give it to my team. And these are the videos you see now on my channel. Like a lot of backlog is now we're pushing through a lot of backlog. And these are now the videos that are coming out soon that I actually did back then. So if you see a drop off in quality, that's because now I'm much better and the videos we're making now, they're actually getting pushed out faster. The backlog comes later, and the backlog comes from these 2 hours per day. I did these 2 hours per day because I needed to give them work, but also I thought, hey, what could I simplify? Before, if you look at my earliest videos about IT around half a year ago, so around November 2023, I made videos that were very polished and a lot of B-roll, and we got the subscription to, what's it called, Artlist or something. But in the end, this was actually not really helpful because it took way too long to produce a video. And now what I do is, I mean, this is what you're seeing here. This is a browser, right? This is just my Firefox. And I record this with OBS. There's one camera and that's it. And if I want shorts, I'm going to turn the camera around and then I make shorts, and everything will be one video file going to the editor. Nothing fancy. So now our turnaround time got way down just because I saw the constraint of only 2 hours of my time per day, and then everything else need to get done by the editing team. That's what I did. I changed the whole workflow. I changed from let's just do 1 video per week and make it super nice to we do a daily thing just because I need to get better at talking. Before, it was a complicated workflow. And after, it was a much more streamlined workflow. I recorded fast and handed over, and it really allowed me to reflect on what I did. So a lot of the content that I did there was actually coming from the work, and this was actually good for me to reflect on that. And yeah, it shows on YouTube. Now we got way more views, and this is before the graph was basically flatlining. We had published 1 video every week, and now we're publishing multiple per week, and like five longs per week and a couple of shorts. And the results are actually there. Just like how it worked, YouTube responds to effort. Lesson number 5, and the last lesson here, is that I actually got good at developing again. And this gave me a lot of insights, especially into this framework that we're using. It's called Hotwire. It's something that's bound to Ruby on Rails, where you do a lot of fancy front-end things, and you can have things that update back from the backend into the browser, and it's much more interactive. And I thought this would be like the most coolest thing that you could build, and everything is now simple. But what I noticed is that complexity, you cannot just abstract complexity away. There is something, at one point you need to say if else. At one point there is something like this comes in, I need to do that. And so the complexity is somewhere. It's just a question, where do you put them? Yes, Hotwire is great and I still like it, but the illusion of doing something and then everything is super easy by just including Hotwire is not true. Coming from that though, I noticed that my team was partially using Hotwire wrong. So they coded way too much JavaScript. And so after reworking that, I gave them a good set of best practices to copy from, because this is usually how code works. You do something and then other people copy that what you did and use yours as a guiding line, as something to learn from and to apply to the next thing. So that's where I failed, I would say, in that project. I should have done this way earlier, because then the whole quality would be even better later on. Yeah, and this is what I did. I wrote a lot of tests, authorization, and front-end tests. And now the project is in a good shape. So this was it. We had 5 lessons, and I put this tracking sheet here into my download section. You can go there and grab it. Let me know what you think. If you think this would apply to you as well, just leave a comment. I would like to know, when is the last time you worked hard and focused at the same time?